Two troublesome friends are hired to retrieve a mysterious substance that pulls them out of time. As they navigate through confusing timelines, they discover that their connection with each other is stranger than they imagined. Johnny boasts about his new bike to Denise, who reminds him that it's stolen. Ignoring this, he asks her for recreational substances, but she reveals she's out. With his withdrawal setting in, Johnny suggests going to Cain for more, despite Denise warning him that Cain had previously harmed someone for upsetting him. The two meet Cain at a laundry shop, but he demands that Johnny settle his debt first. Johnny offers to loan his new bike, but Cain refuses. Instead, the dealer offers them a job to extend their debt deadline. Denise hesitates, but Cain intimidates her, causing her to storm off. Later, the friends discuss the job, with Denise still doubtful, fearing they could be robbing a lunatic. Cain soon arrives and instructs them to procure a bag from a house. The woman probes what's inside the package, but Cain refuses to explain, so she walks away. Cain grabs her and reminds her of their debt. Despite this, the woman refuses, so the dealer finally admits that their target is unhinged, but insists the job is a simple in-and-out procurement. Denise reluctantly accepts, and Cain adds that they can only get in and out through the bathroom window as the house is boarded up. He writes down the address, which the woman grabs before marching out. Before they leave, Cain advises Johnny not to partake of the crystals they'll find, explaining that the last person who consumed them disappeared and was later found in a textbook picture from the Gold Rush era. That afternoon, the two head to the address while Johnny talks about a man named Jazzo, who was arrested for tagging the Great Wall of China. They soon arrive at a dilapidated house and clamber through the bathroom window with a flashlight. The two explore the creaking house until they find a bedroom where a sleeping man clutches the bag they need to procure. Denise grabs a stuffed toy and quickly swaps it with the bag. The two then attempt their escape, but discover bloody handprints on the walls and the bathroom doorknob. Johnny hesitantly opens the door to find a pool of blood on the floor and the window boarded up and locked. Upset, Denise blames Johnny for accepting the job and hits the lock with a flashlight. Frustrated, Johnny goes into another room and opens the bag, revealing pink crystals inside. As he inspects one, he sees Pack 95 written on the room's baseboard. Curious, he decides to use a crystal. As he huffs it, Denise walks in and berates him for their situation, only for Johnny to disappear. Flabbergasted, she inspects the crystals and pockets one before looking for him. The previously sleeping man awakens, so Denise sneaks past him until she sees a note under a door asking for her help. Thinking it's from Johnny, Denise opens the door. Meanwhile, Johnny reappears in the same room he vanished from, but it is no longer in disrepair. He steps into the hallway and finds a woman named Tracy preparing coffee. Johnny sneaks past Tracy and finds a 1995 calendar. Confused, he enters another room where he discovers a small pack of crystals and starts to prepare them. He also finds a police badge in a drawer, just as Tracy walks in and holds him at gunpoint. Johnny assures her he wants to leave, but she aims the gun at his chin. To his surprise, she kisses him, and Johnny immediately understands, undressing while Tracy keeps the gun aimed at him during their activity. In the old house, Denise sees another version of herself inside the room she opened. The other Denise pulls her inside the nursery, assuring her they'll get out of this. She orders the confused Denise to keep the door shut. As she does, Denise mutters about always cleaning up Johnny's messes. Her double defends Johnny, saying he was there when she needed him. She then uses a crystal, grabs the bag, and looks at a card, telling Denise she is returning the favor before disappearing and dropping the card. The dumbfounded Denise discovers it is a Valentine's Day card. She exits the room and sneaks around as the homeowner searches for his bag. Denise slips into another room and hides behind a stack of books. Remembering how Johnny and her other self disappeared, she tries using a crystal but realizes her double took her pipe. With no choice, she grinds the crystal and sees a message from Johnny on the wall saying he's trapped in 1995. Denise then uses the powder and opens the Valentine's card, finding a note from someone in 2053. She hears a scream before disappearing. In 1995, Johnny wakes up in bed with Tracy, who is fast asleep. He laments being stuck in the past with an undercover cop, but soon gets an idea. He sneaks out and writes a message on the wall, the same one Denise saw, and hides it behind a painting. When Tracy sees him, he pretends to be appreciating art. Gun still in hand, she tells him about her undercover mission, where she got close to a gang who put women's hands in blenders, and how she brought the gang down before they could get to her. She then tells him to grab a blender and join her in bed. Terrified, Johnny internally begs Denise to rescue him. Elsewhere in time, Denise appears in the house, now covered in plastic. An electronic voice chirps that someone will be excited she's here on Valentine's Day. Denise inspects a wall plastered with notes and pictures of several women, including herself. Appalled, she grabs the same Valentine's card pinned to it. The computer voice confirms it's 2053 before directing her to a small amount of the time travel crystal. Denise realizes the rest of it is in the present and decides to leave. However, the voice warns that it's dangerous outside due to high solar radiation and riots. Just then, a hooded man with a gas mask steps in. Denise demands to know what he wants and how the crystal works. The computer voice responds, explaining that the crystal deconstructs her body and uses her consciousness to quantum tunnel into a time of her choosing before reconstructing her. The man announces she's the one he's looking for and commands the computer to release sedating gas. As the gas seeps out, she grapples with the man, manages to inhale the crystal, and kicks him back when he pulls her legs. The man removes his mask, revealing himself as Cain. Denise bolts just as the crystal triggers, sending her back to the nursery room in the present. However, present-day Cain is also there, confronting her with a knife. They hear another version of Denise in the bathroom at the time they initially tried to escape, revealing they went slightly back in time. Cain reveals that when the time crystals brought her to his home in the future, he knew she was the one he's been looking for. He traveled into the past and made her indebted to him. Denise assumes he will kill her, but he reveals he needs her to stay in the house forever. Confused, she asks about the crystal, and Cain explains it was developed by a company his brother worked for in 2050. His brother smuggled the stash, and Cain kept it after his brother got arrested. Still in disbelief, Denise calls him crazy, so he corners her with a knife. The lights flicker, signaling the moment Johnny accidentally traveled to the past. Cain threatens Johnny's life, prompting Denise to beg for his safety. Cain cryptically remarks that she shouldn't let her past dictate her future, and then leaves the room. Denise then reveals a notebook she stole from him. In the hall, Cain kicks the mysterious man, who is still asleep, ordering him to retrieve the bag before using a crystal to leave. Meanwhile, Denise writes notes in her notebook and slips them under the door for her other self to find. When past Denise opens the door, she pulls her inside, and the same events occur in the nursery until Denise uses a crystal to go to the past. In 1995, she finally reunites with Johnny, though she's confused by his cleaner look. Johnny explains that he's been living for months with a lunatic undercover cop, while Denise points out that he left her in the nightmare house and that she's come to rescue him. Just then, a pregnant Tracy walks in, accusing Denise of trying to steal her worthless man. Denise pauses, recognizing Tracy as her mother and horrified at the implications. Johnny remarks that this could have been avoided if Denise had come on the date he wrote, but she complains that his message lacked a precise date. She then realizes this is the year she was born, meaning Tracy is carrying her infant self and Johnny is her father. Disgusted, she swallows her revulsion and orders Johnny to leave with her. Tracy yells that he can't just leave her, so Denise sarcastically calls him Dad and commands him to say something. This makes Tracy realize that everything Johnny said about 2022 is true. Johnny expresses disdain that Denise has cop blood in her and doesn't want to be associated with anything police-related. Denise snaps back, calling him the father who abandoned her. Johnny defends himself, claiming he's been keeping tabs on her since they met. Still angry, Denise reveals that she knows he was arrested by an undercover cop and ratted on Jazzo, the man who tagged the Great Wall, making Johnny a traitor. In retaliation, Johnny reveals he knows Denise had a kid and hid her pregnancy under baggy jumpers. Old Cain goes back in time to just before Johnny and Denise are about to steal his bag. He shambles to the bathroom, smearing blood on the wall. Inside, he tosses the bag outside and locks the window. In her prison, Denise desperately searches for a time crystal. She finds Cain's notebook beside her and sifts through it, discovering drawings of herself and other writings. Realizing the implications, she notices a crushed time crystal on the table, uses it, grabs Tracy's gun, and disappears. She arrives back in 1995 at the moment Johnny gets stabbed, now as the armed Denise, who orders her past self to fetch their mother. After her other self disappears, she confronts Cain and asks if he's her son, based on what he wrote in his notebook. Cain nods, so Denise asks him to stop chasing Johnny. Cain refuses. Johnny urges her to shoot Cain, but Denise defends her son, arguing it's not his fault she left him. She recounts using nitrogen canisters from Tracy's whipped cream to feel good and how, when her mother found out, Tracy said her life would be easier without her, the same words old Cain used. Denise explains that her mother went to buy more canisters, was spotted by a gang member, and was killed, causing Denise to blame herself for her mother's death. Denise concludes that Cain's life would have been easier if she didn't exist. However, Cain accuses her of not trying to be a better mother. He reveals he tried to lock her in the house to force them into being a family, ranting that he doesn't know how family works and that she left him in the church and stayed with Johnny, leaving him with nothing. Cain demands Denise shoot Johnny to make things right. At this moment, Tracy arrives upstairs, distracting Cain and giving Johnny the chance to push him off, allowing them to flee into the bathroom. Denise prepares the time crystal and tells Johnny to go somewhere they won't meet, making this their goodbye. He declines, but she argues he already saved her when he found her. Denise tells Johnny it's her turn to save him. From outside, Cain suddenly apologizes, explaining he went crazy after searching for her for so long. He reveals that old Cain told him she left him stranded for 30 years without a time crystal, so he's afraid she'll do it again. Desperate, Cain threatens to shoot Tracy if Denise doesn't give him a crystal. To save Johnny and her mother, Denise angrily asserts she doesn't want a snitch like Johnny in her life. Hurt, Johnny uses the time crystal to leave, but Cain breaks down the door and shoots him before he disappears. Denise wails in anguish as Cain trains his gun on her, demanding she not run away. She uses a time crystal, muttering that she won't, and disappears. Now marooned in this time period, Cain stumbles to Tracy, who's clutching her daughter. Tracy asks what to name her, and Cain suggests Denise, because it sounds annoying. She then asks him to make her coffee in exchange for stitching up his wound. Deciding to make this his home, Cain agrees. Denise returns to the present, arriving in the bathroom where she finds old Cain bleeding. She promises not to run anymore and asks where to take him to fix him up. In 2050, Denise helps old Cain clean up the wall of photos. She then remembers the part of the floor with her name, breaks the floorboard, and finds a box with a letter from Johnny. In the letter, Johnny recounts how he traveled far into the past and was lucky that the house's previous owner was a veterinarian who mended his gunshot wound. His ability to read and write was an advantage, so he became an accountant and married the house owner's daughter. To make things right, he prepared a will to make Cain the owner of the house when he comes of age. Johnny realizes Denise was right about separating them, since no matter how far apart they are in time, they'll always be connected. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more recaps. Your support means the world to me. Feel free to drop any comments or suggestions below. Until next time, take care and stay awesome.